Welcome back, guys. Motovlog number 2. First motovlog was thankfully a somewhat of a success, at least in terms of audio quality. That was my primary concern, so we got that figured out, and now we can hopefully start the much better, more entertaining content. So the topic for today's video, as we ride through some beautiful orange groves, orange trees. This is Florida, Central Florida, and this is where a lot of your orange juice comes from, over here. So as you can see, there are orange trees for days. And sorry, already sidetracked. Second video, new topic for today. Why did I get into motorcycle riding? As I mentioned in the last video, I'm fairly new with motorcycle riding. Been riding for about 5 or 6 months, and I'm loving it so far. This is my first bike. I'm in a good area to kind of practice without too much traffic and build up confidence in my skills. But that's also the interesting part, because I actually got started last year while I was traveling overseas, and the environment I started in was much different than this one, to say the least. So I'm going to bring it back a little bit before the overseas travel to my time in college. I actually followed and watched a lot of motovlog content, even though I didn't have a motorcycle. Some of the people I watched were Chase on Two Wheels, Do It With Dan, Motonocity, Yummy R6, etc, etc, etc. This was back in the day when these guys were pumping out content so often, almost, if not on a daily basis, nearly on a daily basis. So that's when I really started getting kind of like the itch, but at that time I just felt like I wasn't ready yet. I was busy with classes, graduation, college, going to graduate school, and then over time I actually stopped watching all that content, and the whole idea of getting a motorcycle kind of disappeared from my head. It wasn't in my thought process at the time. It wasn't a priority. So fast forward to last year, and I did a crazy thing. I decided to try the digital nomad lifestyle for the first time for 8 months overseas, and I had never left the country before. So literally jumping into the deep end of the pool, and it was probably one of the craziest, most spontaneous decisions I've ever made, but honestly no regrets. Incredible experiences, made incredible friends, people around the world, tried new foods, found new interests, or re-sparked new interest, one of those interests being motorcycles. And yeah, it was just an incredible time. So I was part of a 12-month program. I only did 8 months. That could probably be another story. I did a 12-month program, and you'd think, okay, so there's going to be Latin America, Europe, and Asia. They're probably going to start us in Latin America and slowly work us over to Europe and then Asia. Wrong. We started with Asia. So the first country we stopped at in Asia was Vietnam, specifically Hanoi, for 1 month. And man, what an intro to other cultures in Asia and just travel in general. When I got there, it honestly felt like a dream. It honestly felt like a dream. I still remember going into a van with some other people that were in my group, and we talked for a little bit. I talked to these other people for a little bit, kind of like who you are, where are you from, what do you do, you know, the typical small talk. But after maybe about 10 minutes of that, 10-15 minutes of that, I just stopped talking, and I just was staring out the window of this van going through Hanoi, Vietnam, trying to process the fact that I was in Viet freaking Nam. That began my re-sparked interest in motorcycles, because in a lot of Southeastern Asian countries, especially a place like Vietnam, they call them motos, but really it's what we call them in the States. It's just a scooter. Are the most predominant form of transportation. People there typically don't drive cars. They will drive scooters. It's cheaper, and it's just so dense over there, and it's so small, a lot of these spaces and streets, that it just makes sense. And these people, I mean, it's honestly, there should be like an Olympics of just carrying stuff on your scooter, because I saw people carrying basically their entire families on a little 2-seat scooter, like the father, the wife, and like 3 kids, and maybe like a bag or 2 of groceries. That was tame. Other times you would see furniture or a bunch of produce or food, or just literally the craziest things you would see on these scooters. So I think there should be an Olympic sport on carrying items. How much can you carry on your scooter and your moto? And I'm pretty sure Vietnam would be a perennial gold medal contender. Absolutely, without a doubt. So that first month was just a lot to adjust to. That being said, I wasn't really interested in riding a moto or renting a moto and just kind of going about, and exploring Vietnam. At that time, I would return later on and do that very thing. But at that time, my first month, I had no interest. But they have this service called Grab, which is very similar to Uber. They're all over Asia, Southeast Asia, super popular. They do food delivery, they do, kind of ride share, everything. But instead of using cars like Uber does over here, you call an Uber and, Toyota Corolla or whatever picks you up. Over there, it's motos. You have the option of calling a car, but it's more expensive, and honestly, it's slower because the majority of people in a place like Hanoi, Vietnam, rides scooters, and it's just the fastest way to your destination, especially when there's traffic, because you can squeeze in little spots, you can lane split, you can do all the things that a car can't do. So that was kind of like my first experience. I'm not gonna lie, it was a little unnerving on first, like being on the back of a scooter, and obviously this guy is a local, whoever my driver is a local, and they're speeding through, lane spitting with oncoming traffic. I mean, doing the craziest things you can imagine. And the idea kind of sunk into my head a little bit, but I was like, nah, this is too crazy. I can't learn here, I can't drive here. It's gonna be bad news. So that being said, a few months later, we moved to Bali, Indonesia, and similar to Vietnam, the primary method of transportation is motorbike. So either scooters or motorcycles, but primarily scooters. And again, super crowded, super packed, and just insane. And over there, I had the epiphany. I was like, why not just rent my own motorbike, and I can literally go wherever I want, whenever I want. Easy, right? I ended up getting a Honda Scoopy in red. It was a little loud and bright for my taste, but obviously the red stuck with me because now I have a red motorcycle. But at the time, I just kind of want to blend in. I want to be the obvious tourist on the obvious tourist scooter going around, but that's what I was. So I started on a Honda Scoopy. I think it was a 125cc, and yeah, I remember the guy came to deliver it, and he asked me, he was like, do you have any experience riding? I was like, no, none whatsoever. He was like, okay, no problem, come with me, we'll go find like an empty lot, and then I'll teach you, and you can practice. So I jump on the back, we find an empty lot just a few minutes away, and then he just kind of teaches me the basics. This all took maybe about, 12-15 minutes, not that long, and the guy was like, yeah, you're good. So right then and there he leaves, and I have my own scooter in Bali for about a month. And I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning, driving in traffic, in Bali was an experience. Honestly, pretty terrifying. There's no cushions. No one drives with a cushion of space around them. You're literally front wheel to back wheel, riding in traffic, someone on your left, someone on your right, someone merging in front of you. All the craziest things you can imagine are happening right in front of you. The best way I can describe riding two wheels in anywhere in Southeast Asia is chaos, but it's a controlled chaos, and you just need experience to understand the flow. And once you get it, you get it. It's a beautiful flow state, and honestly, it's a ton of fun. But when you just get there, you think it's the most chaotic, lawless, and it is pretty chaotic and lawless, but again, there's just a flow to it. There's an energy to it. And after maybe a week, 2 weeks, honestly, I was pretty comfortable. I was lane filtering, between cars and, between oncoming traffic and the center line over here with oncoming traffic. Sometimes if there was a lot of traffic, you just kind of hop over into the next lane and just pass everybody. And that's just what everyone does over there on scooters and mopeds. You'll just drive on the opposite side of the road and see a car coming, and then you'll see an impossible space and just basically squeeze into the impossible space into your correct lane until the traffic is clear again. Another thing is even driving on sidewalks, especially like during like the rush hour where it's really congested, and let's say this is backed up with scooters and cars, and people are filtering on the right side, but even on the right side it comes to a stop. When you're filtering on the right and you just come to a stop, just hop onto the sidewalk and keep going. And again, it's just a normal thing over there. It's something everyone does. So I was like, I remember at the beginning, I was like, that's crazy. They're driving on the sidewalk. Like, they're psychotic. I would never do that. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, there I am driving on the sidewalk with everybody else, just trying to get to the front of the queue or trying to get to the intersection, get to where I'm going. So again, these are things I will definitely not do here. It was just, you know, it's a different way of doing things over there, and also I didn't know any better. I wasn't really wearing any protection. I was definitely a hardcore squid. Driving in shorts, a t-shirt, flip-flops. I did have a helmet, but still, if I would have went down even at the slower speeds, it would have been pretty ugly. So I am so lucky that nothing happened to me over there. I did have one near incident though. I had met a friend for dinner at some restaurant, drove there all proud of myself, like a big boy, driving there, parking correctly, and then having dinner and then leaving. And this is nighttime, so I don't know, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. local time. I start riding home and the road's pretty curvy. And I don't know what speed I'm going, but it's a pretty slow speed. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what counter steering was. I'm going very slow. The road starts turning slightly to the right, so I'm turning the handlebars to the right, like almost in a car. Like if you want to turn right, you turn the steering wheel to the right. So I'm turning the handlebars to the right like this. You just see what happened with the motorcycle there. So I'm going to push on the handlebar, on the left handlebar. I'm going to push it forward. So turning the handlebar to the right. Watch what happens. I go to the left. That's counter steering. I did not know what that was. So I'm going around the turn. I'm pushing, you know, trying to go to the right, and I'm going to the left. And there's like a drop off. I don't know, like 3 or 4 feet, like a steep drop off with no hill or nothing. And it's a rice field. I am so close to this edge. Somehow, I guess out of desperation, I started going the right way. I must have started pushing on the other side of the handlebars, and I avoided disaster. But I was that close. Like literally, I could see like the rice or whatever right there towards my left foot in the drop. So super close call. There's one moment that's special to me and I'm going to forever remember. So towards the end of our time in Bali, the group that I'm traveling with has like a farewell party at some beachside like bar, resort, somewhere by the beach. And I remember, you know, driving there, and it's gorgeous. I'm just driving through this winding road, through these rice paddies, feeling the cool breeze of the ocean hitting me, and seeing the sunset on the horizon. It truly felt like I was living in a dream. And that was the moment there that it sunk for me. I was like, this is it. This is what I love. I love riding. I love exploring places, seeing beautiful scenery. This is what I want to keep doing. And at that point, I was determined, whenever I got back to the United States, I was going to get my motorcycle endorsement, and I was going to get my first motorcycle. And yeah, that's the story of how I got into motorcycles, guys. I just rediscovered kind of an interest and a love for it. Took a wild leap of faith, and here we are today. And that's going to do it, guys. That's going to do it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Hope the audio was okay. And yeah, I look forward to making more content soon. I already have more ideas about future videos I'm excited to make and share with this channel. So until next time, peace, guys.